So then in the beginning stages of learning that you create your own reality, often people will say to us, Abraham, I don't believe that I create my own reality, because if I created my own reality, I would not have done it that way. And we say, we didn't say you did it on purpose, we said you did it. Most people are creating their own reality by default. Most people are creating their own reality by their observation of things that are around them. So they're just continuing to perpetuate what's around them. Which is nice if you've got a good thing going, because you just observe the good thing you got going, and more good things you got going, get going more. But there is a way of controlling, but it's early stages kind of stuff. Esther will never forget her first awareness of the hills in San Francisco. She could not believe people were actually crazy enough to live on those hills, and even more, drive up and down them. She couldn't believe it. Imagine being at the top of one of those hills. You've got your car, you're behind the wheel, and just for fun, you decide that you will see what happens. So you take the car out of gear and you take the parking brake off, and you get out and you stand behind the car, and just to see what will happen, you push it just a little bit. And it begins to move ever so slightly in the beginning toward the bay below. And then you realize you know what's going to happen, because you've been around for a while. So you stand out in front of your car and you let it bump up against you, and the momentum subsides. It was simple and easy to do in the beginning. But you would not want to be at the bottom of that hill stopping that momentum. And yet that's the way so many people attempt to control their experience. They pay no attention to the way they feel, so they're not getting early indications of what their momentum is. And they allow their momentum to get going until it begins manifesting in ways they don't want, and then they decide to do something about it. But the thing about that is, when you know what you don't want, and so you step forward in order to do something about this thing that you don't want to happen, what happens is, without even meaning to, you activate more of what you don't want to happen in your vibration. And as you activate more of what you don't want to happen in your vibration, more of what you don't want to happen happens, because law of attraction says that it must be so. So we want to help you to understand that yes, you create your own reality, and yes, you can control the vibration that you're offering, and yes, if you do it in the early stages of momentum, it's easier. The thing we most want you to understand is that while you are sleeping, your momentum subsides. So every morning when you awaken, you have the opportunity to begin the momentum the way you want it to begin. You can send it off in the direction of your desire. Sometimes, usually, often, every morning when you wake up, we're so funny. When you wake up in the morning, often you begin the thought process from where it was before. It's sort of like reorienting yourself. Oh yeah, here I am. Esther quite often is wondering where she is when she wakes up. Bathroom is hard to find when it's in a different place every day. So you wake up and you orient yourself about where you are. And then you usually begin the activation of the things that were going on yesterday, which means there is a continuum from day to day that doesn't change, but it could if you wanted it to. And these are some of the things that we want to visit with you about today. We want you to leave here knowing for sure that you do create your own reality, because you do emit a signal, and because law of attraction responds to the signal, and that things that then match that signal are then realized by you. We want you to leave here today knowing that you are a transmitting and receiving mechanism, and that the thoughts that you think you're thinking are thoughts that in some cases you are projecting, but in most cases you are receiving, because there are not original thoughts. Now there are too many thoughts have been thought. There is too much momentum in the thinking. The evolution of who you are is so far down the road. You are pure positive energy. You are genius creators in these magnificent bodies. You are here creating your own reality with great reason and purpose. And the momentum that has come before is this wonderful ride that is carrying all of us forward, forward, forward. So you are not thinking new thoughts, but you are choosing the direction of the thoughts that are being received by you. Just like tuning your dial. Esther listens to Pulse Radio. She really likes the variety that is there. She has a lot of preset buttons in her cars, and every now and again she just pushes another button and pushes another button and pushes another button, but she's pretty sure of generally what's going to come. She's choosing in some ways a little bit of momentum with lots of options to make new decisions along the way. And that's the thing that we want you to understand. You've got a lot of preset buttons, and some of them are serving you really well, some of them not so well. Esther was thinking the other day, I know I have a lot of beliefs. There are a lot of things that Jerry and I discovered together about our life, about our work, about the world. She said, I wonder if I've got beliefs that are not serving me, that I just keep carrying forward because it's the habit. And so she started then evaluating this situation through the beliefs that she held, because it's quite easy to get set in your ways, isn't it? It's quite easy to decide, well, that always means that, and that always means that. It is easier to have policies. It is easier to be set in your ways. It is easier to have decided things. But you didn't come as a regurgitator. You didn't come to accept a bunch of rules or requirements or regulations or beliefs that others have established. You didn't come just to accept them and focus upon them and prove the validity of someone else's beliefs. You are the creator of your own reality. You came to prove the validity of your beliefs. You came to allow the universe to show you, first of all, your worthiness, your deservability, your blessedness, how you are loved. First, that's what you came to remember. And next, you came to utilize this time-space reality with all of its variety, all of its contrast, all of its pieces and colors and textures, all of the deliciousness of this time-space reality. You came to use this palette of sight and sound and feel and taste. You came to experience your version of all of this as a creator, not as an observer. As a creator, not as a regurgitator. As a creator. So Esther's been listening to us. Every time we get on a new rant about something, Esther believes us because she's never found a shred of evidence to the contrary of anything that we've ever said. So she digs into the process that we recommend and finds the manifestational results. So recently, she's been noticing conditions that are not pleasing. Some conditions that are mildly annoying. Some conditions that are enormously annoying. Some conditions that are unspeakably uncomfortable in the world. There are things that you don't want to be going on. So when she finds herself, for whatever reason, giving her attention to one of those conditions, and she takes the emotional hit of it, she can feel that the opinion of her inner being and the opinion of her, that the opinion of Abraham and the opinion of her are very different opinions, because she can feel the discord, the negative emotion, the tug of war. So she's been sitting with her book and writing the condition, the unwanted condition. This is what's going on. And I sure would feel better if that condition did not exist. And then she acknowledges, but it does exist. It's not my job or my capability. It's not my work. It's not for me to do to change the condition. It just exists. It's also not my work to accept the condition. It is a condition. It's a condition. And then she writes, it's been very helpful for her, if this condition could change to one I prefer, I would feel like this. And then she begins writing some of the emotions that she would feel. I would feel freer, she usually writes. I would feel better. I would feel happier. I would feel better. And then she sits and writes those emotional words, because after all, isn't everything you want, whether it's a material object, a state of being, a pile of money, isn't everything that you want it because you think you would feel better if you had it? So sometimes she'll write a page or two or three or four emotional words. She repeats herself over and over again. She writes the word fun a lot. It would be more fun. Be more fun. I'd feel more clear. I would feel more proud. I would feel more sure. I would feel love. I would feel better. I would feel so good. I would feel exhilarated. I would feel lighthearted. I'd feel that being on vacation feeling. I would feel ease. I would feel sure. I would feel loved. I would feel love. I would feel loved. I would feel loved. I would feel loved. I would feel blessed. I would feel so happy. I would feel glad. And she just writes that and writes that and writes that and writes that and writes that. Before she knows it, she feels those ways because she has distracted herself from the condition, and now she is experiencing unconditional alignment. Are you following? It sounds so simple, it sounds silly. But if you want to feel happy, you've got to figure out how to withdraw your attention from conditions that you cannot change. And even before that, it would be very helpful if you would accept that you cannot change any condition other than the way you feel. So the other day, Esther's been listening to us talking about this. We've been talking about it quite a bit. And she's determined because she so wants to feel good. So she was sitting in Texas in a chair in her living room that looks out across the pool. And she was in such a heightened state of well-being that as she looked out there and saw the crane statues, they're just magnificent, and the beautiful oak trees that are right there, right on the other side of her pool. And the pool itself and all of its engineering and beauty and sound as she looked around, and then the red bird that stood on the point of a tip of a tree and just looked at her. And as Esther is looking at all of this, she is feeling, she's reaching for words to describe to you. You sort of have to kind of be there, but rapturous, elation, unspeakable well-being, indefinable well-being, all the well-being of the world being experienced by her right now. It's a feeling of feeling blessed and loved. And as she sat there basking in this moment in time and loving the idea of it lasting forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, it started fading as she focused a little laxly. And then she said, "Aha, Abraham, I've caught you in a inconsistency here because these are conditions that I am focused upon and I feel good. So don't talk to me about unconditional love because these are conditions and I love them." And we said, here's the difference. You were in that state of love before you realized the depth of the beauty of these conditions. You weren't using these conditions to conjure the feeling of love. You were there and then you realized them. It's the horse before the cart thing, isn't it? In other words, feels like nitpicking. It feels like splitting hairs. It feels like something that we are making more simplistic than you want it to be. But it is that easy. You just have to decide that you want to feel good and stop thinking about things that keep you from feeling good. You're like a cork that bobs on the surface, and that's what feeling good is. You can hold that cork under the water, but when you let go, it's going to bob back up. And this is the thing that we want you to realize about yourself and others. And most of you don't realize it about yourself and others. Happiness is your natural state and would be your state if you weren't thinking thoughts that introduce contradictory energy that keep you from being where the source within you is. That is your natural state. And if you are not happy in any moment, something is out of whack, and it's you. We have enjoyed this interaction more than these words can explain to you. We are loving the resonance that you feel. It feels good to feel the alignment with who you are, doesn't it? And you are as close to unconditional awareness of life as you have ever been. You'll feel more. When we analyze, focus on, pay attention to religious or governmental documents, there have been so many, there is a predominant quest that is at the basis of all of those revolutionary documents. And every one of those documents was a revolution against something. Think about it. In that inspired revolutionary document was the natural, central, source-inspired understanding, awareness, determination for self-actualization and freedom. Every single time. You've just discovered that here today. You now will never again be bound